Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project. How the heck are you? What a beautiful day out here in San Antonio, Texas. It's been blue skies for the past 3 days, and I haven't seen a chemtrail in sight. It's not quite that deep, dark blue that it used to be, 15, 20, 30 years ago, but it's still pretty dang blue, and it's nice to see. But that is not the discussion. Today's discussion, are there reptilians inside of the hollow earth? And what about all these ancient Sumerian tablets, ancient Mesopotamia that show a central point and describe a hollow earth? Well, I'm going to share with you the evidence, the information available, whether you want to read even the Old Testament. Genesis talks about the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And is the serpent Enki? Is Enki, or a representation of Enki, the serpent race, the serpent being? Now, I shared with you guys a story that's about 230,000 years old that's etched in a 5,000 or 6,000 year old tablet that talks about how Dumazid, the king that ruled for 36,000 years pre-flood, how he was sent to the netherworld as a sacrifice so Inanna could ascend from the netherworld. And he said, hey, turn my feet and my arms into snake arms and snake's feet so that I can escape the netherworld. Now, whether or not there really is a reptilian race, or whether or not there was a reptilian race, you guys can come up with your own conclusions. I'm going to share the evidence and the information that I have compiled, and hey, decide for yourself. This right here, this is an ancient tablet that's several thousand years old that has what looks like the bird people. Those don't look like regular human beings to me. And if you read an ancient story, creation story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it describes how there were these Inanna people, bird people, very similar to the depiction in Flash Gordon, the 1980 film. The Anunnaki are rampant through that film. The evil Ming, the emperor, that looks very similar to Anton LaVey and Spock in his older years. But this is just fascinating. Now, I'm going to share with you also, we're going to go to the Oxford University's website. I want to give credits to where credits are due. You can see the project members here. This Oxford translation team did a very good job translating a multitude of Sumerian tablets. I'm going to share with you, I did a search on Netherworld. I found 62 different paragraphs, different tablets and stories that have been discovered and translated that talk about the Netherworld. Interesting enough, I also found 62 paragraphs when I searched the Underworld, yet these are different references. So the Underworld and the Netherworld, are they the same thing? Are they something different? Are they, depending on the story, describing something different? Well, we're going to find that out as well. I'm also going to share with you a little bit out of Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven, which I feel is some type of technology that came to Earth. It also talks about how a house was built, how a structure was built, and it was descended from heaven. So it came from the heavens and landed on the earth. It's very interesting. This right here is a Sumerian tablet that you can see the hollow earth. The hand on the heart symbol represents the hollow earth. And then you also notice that it's got the little people that are being stepped on by the gods. Maybe it's the Nephilim, maybe it's the Anunnaki, maybe it's highly concentrated. Never mind, I'm not even going to go there. But the hand on the heart symbol represents the hollow earth. According to this research, the Earth's magnetic field, the Schumann resonance as well. And then, well, this is the symbolic spider that wove its way through history. We'll talk about that as well later. But let's go back to these guys right here. Will you just look at it? Just take a look at these guys. Let me zoom in. Now, these reptilians? Are these, I don't know. What do you guys think these dudes look like? These are the Anunna gods. And the Anuna gods are described in the netherworld as being the gods of the netherworld when Inanna descends. And there's several stories of different characters throughout history that go to the netherworld. And people, including myself, have asked, well, why would one want to go to the netherworld, especially like Inanna, when she has all the gifts and creature comforts of being a queen and a goddess in the heavens and on earth, and she wants to risk it all to go to the netherworld. So that's interesting. But let's take a look at some of the information here from Genesis. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And the Lord God said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. So the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Now, this is interesting because this sounds like Enki and Enlil in the Sumerian stories, how it describes, Enki was the creator of the gods, the lesser gods, as well as the creator of our human form, to take the toil away, to take a lot of the work load off the hands of the lower gods. And it sounds to me like Enki gave information to Eve, and he also, it sounds like, had sex with her. So there's a serpent race. There's two different, the different houses. You hear House of Enki, House of Enlil, etc. I mean, you can come up with whatever conclusion you want there. Yet I do think that maybe that's what is described here, is there was some type of, and even the Gnostic stuff talks about it in a different spin. So did Enki have sex with Eve? Enlil was like, wait, what are you doing? Or maybe he didn't even have sex with Eve. Maybe he just used her DNA to create another family line. It's fascinating. But to get to the netherworld here and the reptilian possibility, I'm sure you've seen some of those clay tablets where there are dinosaurs hanging out with people. There's fossilized remains of footprints of human beings, and then the prints of dinosaurs as well. There's a lot of speculation on how much truth there is to the dinosaurs dying from an asteroid hitting the planet. Now, the question is, back in that time as well, could they have just as easily manipulated, these genetic manipulators that can travel time and space, whether they're gods, whether they are like gods, whether they're flesh and bone, and they act as gods because of their technology and their genetic transhumanism creations that they have obtained. There's Native American stories that talk about people having to go inside the earth during cataclysmic events to survive, being saved by these giant spider people, insectoid beings. Maybe the serpent line is controlling things out here in there. Now, the question is, this serpent race, these reptilians, if they're there, remember, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Would they feel that because maybe they think they were here before us, they have right to this domain over humans, so that they influence and get into certain positions of power, kind of like Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Maybe they have to overlay certain energies because they are in a different dimension, just a little bit off in this one. You know, for example, when you listen to the radio, you're just changing the stations. They're all there. You just have to tune it in. Maybe there's something more to Phil Schneider and his death. And, you know, you see pictures of him. Supposedly he just killed himself, but you look at those pictures, there's no way he killed himself. He was taken out big time. You know, he comes out, starts talking about ETs under the earth, and then starts doing conferences and seminars. And then somehow he strangles himself to death and shoots himself in the back of the head and does all this other weird stuff. I don't even know all the details. Somebody shared them with me, what they knew the other day. And I was just like, wow, there's no way. I was very skeptical until I saw that picture. And you can look it up. Look up the picture of what he looks like after he supposedly killed himself. Maybe the reason the flat earth is being pushed as well, I think it's somewhat of a psyop, and I do feel there's a lot of people that genuinely believe it. And if you do, that's cool. Hey, I'm not judging you. I'm giving you my opinion. I feel that there's too many things left unexplained if you go to the flat earth model. There's just too many questions, and there's too many ways to explain the earth as a globe, especially when you get into astronomy. Now, with that said, the hollow earth theory is, in many people's minds, just as far out as the flat earth theory. And I get it, and I respect that. There's people like Dr. Brooks Agnew. I've had him on the show before. I need to have him on again. He was going to do an expedition to the center of the earth several years ago when a certain place in Antarctica had very depleted levels of ice. So it was going to be easier for them to get to the place that they needed to go. They said now, or last time I talked to him, he said now there's a lot more ice there, so they can't get to it like they could before. There's information out there, and you can look this up yourselves. Search engines, very easy, and you can cross-reference it with white papers, etc. Data. There's oceans underneath our oceans that we have access to now, larger than the ones that are on the surface. It doesn't mean the earth is completely hollow, because if the earth was completely hollow, how would you explain volcanoes? How would you explain magma and all the different lava flows and earthquakes and tectonic plates and such? So I think I think we need to be very careful how we phrase it, because there might be pockets of hollow earth. There's definitely pockets of hollow earth. I mean, look at some of the caves with ecosystems in and around Vietnam, where people will skydive. They'll jump and free fall and for quite some time before they have to pull the parachute. So I do feel that there is a lot underneath the earth that we are not being given the opportunity to learn about publicly. We have to do the research and point, and we have to connect the dots ourselves. So let's look at some of these different references in the Sumerian tablets, ancient Sumerian tablets of the netherworld. What did the ancients think? What did they have to say about it? Well, this is Dumazid and Gestinana. I probably said that name wrong, but I think I got Dumazid right. A small demon opened his mouth and said to the big demon, "Come on, let's go to the lap of the holy Inanna." The demons entered Anu and seized holy Inanna. "Come on, Inanna, go on that journey which is yours alone. Descend to the underworld. Go to the place which you have coveted. Descend to the netherworld. Go to the dwelling in Erxkagala. Descend to the underworld. Don't put on your holy garment, the pala dress of ladyship. Descend to the underworld. Remove the holy headdress, that splendid ornament from your head. Descend to the underworld. Don't enhance your appearance with a wig. Descend to the underworld. Don't adorn your feet. descend to the underworld when you descend. Well, there you go. So it sounds to me like that is the reason she was tricked into going to the netherworld. These demons, they went to her lap. Inanna liked to, she was quite promiscuous in these ancient tablets. So I am wondering if this symbology, this symbolism of these demons, let's go to the lap. If somebody tricked her and did, like some into sexual intercourse, then they whispered some information in her ear that made her perk up. I don't know. I'm attempting to decipher this as I share this with you guys. Sometimes the best stuff comes to me just as I'm reading it for the first time or the second time or whatever. But come on, Inanna, go on that journey, which is yours alone. Descend to the underworld. So she gets tricked regardless by these demons into going to the netherworld. And that's why she decides to give everything up and take the risk. Now, what was she promised, though? What was it that they offered her to do that? That is the question. So let's go to the next one. Dumazid and his sisters. This talks about how, okay, so you remember when Inanna says, do you remember when Inanna says to her mistress, when she's going to go to the netherworld, she says, okay, you need to lacerate your eyes, your nose, your buttocks, you need to cut yourself up, and you need to go to Enlil, and if he won't save me, then go to Enki. So this is also the flatulence, did I say that wrong? that they do, self-mutilation and remembrance goes way back. So the door of the gate of the netherworld, my brother, the door of the gate, whether you go, I will hasten with you. Dumazid, wherever you go, then it's the journey to the netherworld. Ningshita's journey to the netherworld. The river of the netherworld produces no water. No water is drunk from it. That sounds more like the astral realm to me. That's the spirit world. The fields of the netherworld produce no grain, no flowers eaten from it. So there's a physical gateway to the netherworld. There's like a physical location. That makes me think of some type of Stargate technology. I also wrote some notes earlier about how, here, let me share this with you guys. Okay, so the notes that I wrote were matrix illusion, more alive in the spiritual than the physical. So what if what we're experiencing right now, or at least some of us in this physical realm, is actually more virtual than the spiritual realm? So maybe it's being projected from the netherworld somehow, this entire matrix of projection. And by transferring your consciousness to that level, it's almost like you can uncover these secrets and mysteries that then you can bring up into this level. And depending whether or not you are from this earth or from somewhere else, because that's another thing that's talked about in many scriptures and different religions and philosophies. Are you from this world? Some people are, and some people aren't. Man, I love kombucha tea. This stuff is awesome. So I think that's interesting. Then Ningshita's journey to the netherworld. Your hand against the netherworld's office of throne bearer. The death of Gilgamesh. Sisig, a god of dreams, the son of Utu, which is Marduk, the sun god, will provide light for him in the netherworld, the place of darkness When a funerary statue is made in honor of someone, whoever they may be, for future days, mighty use, and will form a semicircle at the door jambs and perform wrestling and feats of strength before them. In the month of Nenagar, at the festival of the ghosts, no light will be provided before them without him. So Gilgamesh, by going to the netherworld, they say, let's make him our king of the netherworld. Let's make him the king. The death of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, they answered him. He weeps. Why is made? Nintur has not given birth yet. The birds of the sky cannot escape. The fish of the deep water cannot see. Having spread his net, the young fisherman will catch you. Whoever seen anyone who could ascend? Who has ever seen anyone who could ascend? Well, Inanna did. The netherworld. Okay, so let's see here. They answered him. He weeps. Nintur has not given birth yet. The birds of the sky cannot escape. The fish of the deep water cannot see. Having spread his net, the young fisherman will catch you. Who has ever seen anyone who could ascend from the netherworld? No king has ever been destined to fate like yours, who anyone among mankind, whoever they may be, like you, the governorship of the netherworld, your ghost, past judgments. Okay. The death of Gilgamesh. Let Gilgamesh, as a ghost below among the dead, be the governor of the netherworld. Let him be preeminent among the ghosts, so that he will pass judgment and render verdicts, and what he says will be as weighty as the worlds of Ningshita and Dumazud. Remember, Dumazud served 230 plus thousand years ago, and the end of his reign, he had a reign of 36,000 years. Inanna comes back from the netherworld. She's not even going to give up her hairdresser for a sacrifice so that she can come back. She sees Dumazud's on the throne, and it seemed like he was just a little too happy that she was gone. So she gets pissed, and she says, okay, you guys take him to the netherworld. He will be the sacrifice. And that's Easter, Ishtar. So when people are worshiping the resurrection of Jesus on Easter, you're actually worshiping the crucifixion of Jesus, Dumazud, and the resurrection of Inanna, Ishtar. It's fascinating. So he will now be counted among the Anuna gods. He will be counted a companion of the gods, the governor of the netherworld. He will pass judgments and render verdicts, and what he says will be as weighty as the words of Ningshita and Dumazud. So let's go back to these reptilian gods, the Anuna gods, the reptilian gods of the netherworld. Now, it's interesting as well, because a lot of people either think David Icke's work is incredible, or you think he's a shill. Now, personally, I think he has a ton of incredible work. If you read his book, The Biggest Secret, that came out in like 97 or 98, the dots that he connected were way ahead of their time. Now, I don't agree with everything he says, but I still feel that he brings a lot of very interesting information to the table, at least some of his older stuff. I haven't read his newer stuff. But it's fascinating, the connections that he made on the possibility of the reptilians and, shape-shifting reptilians. Now, I don't agree with his connections on the, shape-shifting reptilians in specific aristocratic bloodlines. But you know what? Could be, right? There is a possibility, especially if you read about how the Romans and the Greeks and cultures from around the world, those that were put in power as kings, they were given that power from an extraterrestrial race or a interdimensional race, or from the gods, or from what referred to as the space people, the space travelers. So whether or not they can form in and out of existence like the demigods talked about in the Hindu philosophies, or they're actually physical people that have just learned how to physically live longer through some type of nanotechnologies or bio infusion of nanotech, as well as biotech. There's just so much information out there that if you follow the underlying themes and combined with people that I know personally and the experiences that they've had and the people that they're related to, and I have a friend that sent me a picture once. She woke up, she had a mark of 6 fingers on the side of her body. I mean, just bizarre. So, you can say, oh, you could come up with any story you want and try and debunk it. So there's no reason for her to make something like this up and be like, oh, hey, look at this. And it was too good to be made up, in my opinion, anyway. But you hear about these kind of things from other people, and then you see certain things that you say to yourself, is that real? Did I really just see that? And then you read about some of this older stuff that was put together in these books, and you really have to question the status quo, the official version of what you're being told. So I would ask you guys, what do you think the netherworld is? How do you feel about the possibility of there being some type of, even the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talk about these serpents that control people through blood, that control and influence people of very high positions of power. And that goes back to the time of Atlantis. So is it really a conspiracy, just a conspiracy, when you study various cultures, when you know from personal experiences and other people's experiences that what we're being told isn't necessarily the truth when it comes to the brain drain media, what we've been taught in history, what we've been taught in school, what many religions push will offer bits and pieces of truth. You just have to decipher it, and then they give you so many lies in connection with that it's very difficult to understand what the real truth is, because it's like shifting through multitudes of haystacks looking for a very small needle. So why do they use aborted baby cells for flavor enhancers? Why do they use the blood of the earth in virtually everything that produces energy? We're connected to the earth. We're a part of it as well. Why did the Bible talk about the serpent? Why did the Sumerians talk about the serpent beings? The turning my arms and legs into snakes. Why are there so many depictions of snakes and reptilian type entities and hollow earth philosophy? Why are there dozens of references in the tablets that you have access to publicly describing a physical location to the netherworld, the Anuna gods? Yet once you get into the netherworld, it isn't a physical place like it is here. Yet, even though this is physical, how does that make it more real than a vision that you have in the astral realm? Then there's also 62 paragraphs of the underworld. Enlil and Ninlil, Enki and the New World Order and the World Order, and Nana and Enki, Dumazid and Jestin Anna, Anana's descent to the netherworld. Bunch in that story right there. Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven. If you read about the Bull of Heaven, now this is where I feel that there's some type of space technology that was used, or maybe not space technology, but something that very highly advanced this Bull of Heaven. Because when you read about the Bull of Heaven and how Inanna basically sets up a coup, takes over On, she says, look, if you don't give me this Bull of Heaven, I want to take out Gilgamesh. You don't give me this Bull of Heaven, well, guess what? I'm going to get pissed. And On is the father of everything in the Anunnaki folklore. There is a creator god above On, but he is the creator of the Anunnaki. So it's interesting how On gives up this bowl of heaven to Inanna. After at first he's like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. No. And then he's like, okay, because she starts screaming, and does she have a bunch of backup? So she gets this bowl of heaven, and then it talks about how she brings it down and how it literally consumes a mile of river every time it takes a drink. So with each slurp, it used up 1 mile of the river. But its thirst wasn't satisfied. It devoured the pasture and stripped the land bare. His lady Gilgamesh said, my mother, my sister, will the cattle of their tethering stakes, the sheep of their tethering stakes, to their tethering stakes. Gilgamesh, bull of heaven, you, yes, you. They will throw your corpse in the deserted streets. See, Inanna wants Gilgamesh, and he's like, no, I've seen what you've done to other people, and you're like the Black Widow. So she gets mad. She goes up to On. She gets this bull of heaven. She brings it down. And then the devastation, it drank the water of the river in great slurps. I mean, each slurp, 1 mile of the river was used up. It's pretty big. It devoured the pasture. It stripped the land bare. It broke up the palm trees. It bent them to fit into its mouth. It sounds like some type of tractor or some type of equipment that you would see today. When it was standing, the bull submerged anew. It's submerged anew. That's huge. So that's more than a tractor. It's a tractor on steroids. Hello. Thank you for being here. Hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are. Remember, this is all conspiracy. Question everything. Be excellent to each other. Go to leakproject.com if you want access to over 1,300 podcasts. Many of those are exclusive to leakproject.com. Also, support our sponsors, getthetea.com. They have amazing organic supplements. They have different products for different opportunities. If you go to the website and just check it out, getthetea.com, you will see all the different products there and the formulas that are used, the quality of the ingredients. One thing that I do is I'm a label reader. I like to know what I'm consuming. So when I go to the grocery store, I'm always looking at the labels. And also, same thing with supplements. If you look at the actual product, almost everything at Get the Tea is organic. And the amount that is used in the formulas that are put together, for me, are awesome. So anyway, I would check it out. Getthetea.com. When you purchase something from getthetea.com and you check out, if you would, let them know you heard about them from Leak Project. That's my shameless plug. Be the change you want to see, everybody.
We come in peace. We come in peace. Exterminate. Exterminate. We are the dialect.
The Garden of Eden. And is the serpent Enki, is Enki, or a representation of Enki, the serpent race, the serpent being? Now, I shared with you guys a story that's about 230,000 years old that's etched in a 5,000 or 6,000 year old tablet that talks about how Dumazud, the king that ruled for 36,000 years pre-flood, how he was sent to the netherworld as a sacrifice so Inanna could ascend from the netherworld. And he said, hey, turn my feet and my arms into snake arms and snake's feet so that I can escape the netherworld. Now, whether or not there really is a reptilian race or whether or not there was a reptilian race, you guys can come up with your own conclusions. I'm going to share the evidence and the information that I have compiled. And, hey, decide for yourself. This right here, this is an ancient tablet that's several thousand years old that had been discovered and translated that talk about the netherworld. Interesting enough, I also found 62 paragraphs when I searched the underworld, yet these are different references. So The underworld and the netherworld, are they the same thing? Are they something different? Are they, depending on the story, describing something different? Well, we're going to find that out as well. I'm also going to share with you a little bit out of Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven, which I feel is some type of technology that came to Earth. It also talks about how a house was built, how a structure was built, and it was descended from heaven. So it came from the heavens and landed on the earth. It's very interesting. This right here is a Sumerian tablet that you can see the hollow earth. The hand on the heart symbol represents the hollow earth. And then you also notice that it's got the little people that are being stepped on by the gods. You know, maybe it's the Nephilim, maybe it's the Anunnaki, maybe it's highly concentrated. Never mind, I'm not even going to go there. But the hand on the heart symbol represents the hollow earth. According to this research, the earth's magnetic field, the Schumann resonance as well. And then, well, this is the symbolic spider that wove its way through history. We'll talk about that as well later. But let's go back to these guys right here. Will you just look at it? Just take a look at these guys. Let me zoom in. Now, these reptilians? Are these, I don't know. What do you guys think these dudes look like? These are the Anunna gods. And the Anunna gods are described in the netherworld as being the gods of the netherworld when Inanna descends. And there's several stories of different characters throughout history that go to the netherworld as what looks like the bird people. Those don't look like regular human beings to me. And if you read an ancient story, creation story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it describes how there were these Inanna people, bird people, very similar to the depiction in Flash Gordon, the 1980 film. The Anunnaki are rampant through that film. The evil Ming, the emperor, that looks very similar to Anton LaVey and Spock in his older years. But this is just fascinating. Now, I'm going to share with you also, we're going to go to the Oxford University's website. I want to give credits to where credits are due. You can see the project members here. This Oxford translation team did a very good job translating a multitude of Sumerian tablets. I'm going to share with you, I did a search on Netherworld. I found 62 different paragraphs, different tablets and stories. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project. How the heck are you? What a beautiful day out here in San Antonio, Texas. It's been blue skies for the past 3 days, and I haven't seen a chemtrail in sight. It's not quite that deep, dark blue that it used to be, 15, 20, 30 years ago, but it's still pretty dang blue, and it's nice to see. But that is not the discussion. Today's discussion, are there reptilians inside of the hollow earth? And what about all these ancient Sumerian tablets, ancient Mesopotamia, that show a central point and describe a hollow earth? Well, I'm going to share with you the evidence, the information available, whether you want to read even the Old Testament. Genesis talks about the serpent